This is video number 4 for Access Module 2 in the Shelly Cashman book on Microsoft Office 365. In this video, we're going to take a look at joining tables. We are on page 2-29, and there's a picture there of the appointments table and the treatment cost table. Sometimes the information that you need to retrieve requires getting data from more than one table. And if that's the case, you need a way to take the records in one table and match them up with records in another table. So let's just take a minute to look at the tables that are listed on page 2-29. So if we look at this example, in the appointments table, we have a column called treatment number. But all we have is the treatment number. We don't have any more information about it. If we want to find out what's involved with that treatment, we have to go to the treatment cost table and look up the treatment number. That's the key in the treatment cost table. And then we can find the treatment, the animal type, and the cost. So if you want to get data from two tables at the same time, what you have to do is you have to do something called joining those tables together. And the way you join tables together is you take the key from one table and you put it as a field in another table, and that creates a link between the two tables. In this case, we're going to take the treatment number from the treatment cost table, T1, T2, T3, and so on. And we're going to put that in the appointments table. And that's basically a pointer back to the treatment cost table so we can retrieve some more information. So let's take a look at the first one. For example, we've got in the appointments table, we've got appointment ID 1, patient ID F1, we've got the date, the time, the treatment number, the veterinarian, and the owner. So we see that this one has treatment number T-3. Well, to find out what's involved with T-3, we have to go to the treatment cost table, find row T-3. T-3 is the primary key for the treatment cost table, so the primary key has to be unique. There's only going to be one T-3 in the entire table. And we see that that is a wellness visit, and it's for a feline, and the cost is $20. So that's basically how a join works. We want to take every one of those treatment numbers in the 5 rows of the appointment table, and we want to link it to the appropriate row in the treatment cost table. And all we have to do is tell Access how to create that link between the treatment number column in the appointments table and the treatment number column in the treatment cost table. Once we tell it that, then it can do the rest of the work as far as joining the two tables is concerned. So it's really pretty easy for us to set up. So we're going to go to page 2-30, and we're going to start creating our first join. So what we want to do is we want to start a new query. So we're going to go to Create up here. We're going to choose Query Design, and we want tables. We're going to join tables together. We want the appointments table, and we want the treatment cost table. So double-click on appointments, double-click on treatment cost, and they both appear at the top over here. And because we named the field treatment number in both tables, Access assumes that they're referring to the same thing, and it creates a link between the two tables. And it shows us the link by drawing a line from treatment number in the appointments table to treatment number in the treatment cost table. When you do this, when you make this connection, one of these fields is always going to be a key in a table. So this is considered the primary key in the treatment cost table. And we're taking a primary key from one table and making an ordinary field in another table. And that's called a foreign key in the other table. So we've got the line connecting the two fields together. Now, when you run a query, you want to pull some data out. We have to figure out what data it is that we want to pull out. And we want to pull out the appointment date. We want to pull out the treatment. We want to pull out the animal type and the cost. So double click on each one of those to make them appear in the grid at the bottom. So we're pulling 3 things out from this table, 1 thing from this table. And down here, we give the field in the first row, and then it tells what table it's coming from on the second row. We want to put these in ascending order by appointment date. So go to the appointment date column, click on the down arrow in the sort row, choose ascending. And if we have 2 appointments on the same date, then what we want to do is we want to order them by treatment. So we're also going to put that in ascending order. Click on the down arrow in the sort box under treatment, choose ascending, and now we're ready to run our query. Go up to the top on the Query Design tab, click on the exclamation mark to run the query. And what we get back is 5 rows. This should match what you see at the bottom of page 2-31. And they're sorted by appointment date, but we have 2 dates that are the same. We have 2 appointments on 6:30. And because there's a tie there, the tiebreaker is going to be the treatment column, and that's going to be in ascending order or alphabetical order as well. And since F comes before W, that row is going to appear first in our results. So let's save this. We'll just click on the X here to save it. Yes, we want to save the changes, and because we haven't named it yet, it's going to ask us to give this a name. The name is going to be appointments and treatments. Click on OK, and it will save the query for us. Let's flip over to page 2-32. We're going to look at changing the join properties. So first of all, we need to go back to this query, right-click on it, open it up in Design View, click on Design View, and we're back to looking at our query in Design View. We want to right-click on the join line to produce a shortcut menu. So right-click on the join line right here, get the tip of the arrow on the join line, and we want to choose Join Properties from the pop-up menu. Now we get some choices here. When you do a join between 2 tables, the default, which makes sense, I think, is to include only rows where there is a match in the join fields. So if we had a mistake over here and there was a treatment number that did not exist over here, which would obviously be a mistake, that record would not show up because there's no match for it over here. And if we have some treatments over here that have never been prescribed in an appointment, then there will not be a treatment number for all of these in the appointments table. Sometimes you want to see those extra rows from the appointments table. In this case, I think that would imply an error in the treatment number. If you want to include all of the fields in the treatment cost, all that's going to do is show you all the treatments that have been prescribed at an appointment and all of the ones that have not been prescribed. So we will see every row in the treatment cost table, regardless of whether there's a match over here. So we've got 2 other options here. One is, well, do you want to see everything from the appointments table, even if there's not a match over here? And if we ran this, because there are no errors in the treatment number, we would get the exact same 5 results. So we're going to skip that one. But the third one here is to include all records from the treatment cost and only those records from the appointments where the joined fields are equal. So we'll get all 5 appointments, but we're going to get some extra ones over here. This is kind of a contrived example, I think, because I'm not sure how useful this query would actually be, but we're going to select number 3. We will get our appointments and we will get all of the unused treatments. So we will get everything that's in the treatment cost table, and there are 14 of those. So we'll get at least 14 records back. If some of the treatments have been prescribed more than once, then we'll get more than 14 rows back. Let's go ahead and click on OK. Let's go to our Query Design tab up here. Let's click on the red exclamation mark and let's run that query. And we get down here 15 rows. And what that tells me is that in our appointments here, there must be one treatment that was prescribed twice, and it is these 2 rows right here. Everything else is unique. So we get all 14 records from the treatments table, and we get all 5 records from the appointments table. Let's go back to Design View. It says to experiment, so we're going to right-click on the join line here. We're going to choose Join Properties again. And 1 is the default. The first time we ran this query, that's what we got. We changed it to 3 and ran the query and got all of the records from the treatment cost table. Now we're going to choose number 2. We're going to click on OK, and we're going to run. We should get the exact same 5 records that we got before. Okay, let's go back to Design View. Let's close the query. Click on the X up here next to Appointments and Treatments. Because we've made changes in the query, it's going to ask us, do we want to save the changes? And yes, we do. Go ahead and click on Yes. And now let's flip over the top of page 2-34. When you run a query, what you get back from it looks like a table. Let's go ahead and just double click on this to run it. And that looks like a table. There is no table out there called Appointments and Treatments, but the result of a query is rows and columns, and it looks like a table, but technically it's not. But what a report does is it takes a table and makes the output look pretty, and you can feed the results of a query to a report, just like you can feed a table to a report. And so you can get the results of this query and print them out and make them look pretty. And that's what we're going to do on page 2-34. So we want to open the navigation pane. We want to select the appointments and treatments query. So let's close this. So with appointments and treatments selected up here, let's go to create up here on the top. What we want to do is we want to create a report. So we're going to choose our report wizard. And the wizard will ask us questions about what we want to see. Because we had this selected, it automatically comes up here and the fields are going to be listed down below. We want all of those fields to be in the report, so we can just click the double arrow here and all 4 of them will come across. Click on next. We're not going to do any grouping, so click on next. We've already specified a sort in our query, so we don't need to do any other sorting, so click on next. Select tabular for the layout. Click next. Add the word report to the title here. There really shouldn't be any confusion because we'll have, even if we didn't put the word report on here, it would be listed down here as a report, and we would also have something with the same name, but it would be a query, so it would be listed up here. But this makes it a little bit easier to distinguish between the two. Make sure preview the report is turned on. Click on finish, and we'll get a nice looking report that we could print out on a piece of paper if we wanted to. Everything here is exactly the same as what we saw when we ran the query. The only difference is we made it look pretty. So go ahead and close that. Now we're at the bottom of page 2-35. So make sure appointments and treatment is selected down here. Let's go to our file tab. Let's go to print. And if you want to print it, you can click on quick print. If you just want to look at it first before you print it, make sure it looks the way you want it to look, click on print preview here. And if you look at it and you decide that's what you want to print out, go ahead and click on the print button over here. I'm not going to actually print it, so we'll just stop right there. Let's go ahead and close that. Now let's turn over to page 2-36. It says, if necessary, select the appointments and treatments query in the navigation pane. So we want the query, not the report. So click on appointments and treatments up here. Click create on the ribbon to display the create tab. Click the form button, and it will create a form for us. So if you'd prefer to scroll through the results of the query one record at a time, you can create a form, and you can use the navigation buttons down here at the bottom of the form to scroll through the query results. Okay, the last thing we want to do is we want to save this. So let's click on the save button up here. And we're going to add the word form to this. Click on OK. And now in the forms group over here, we've got another thing with appointments and treatments listed, but it has the word form on it instead. So we've got 3 things here. We've got the query, we've got the form, and we've got the report. And this looks like a good place to stop. We'll pick up with our next video at the bottom of page 2-37.